First, I want to say thanks to the good folks here in Yuma for hosting us. We've had a wonderful 24 hours. I guess it's been 24 hours, Supervisor, seeing all kinds of interesting things. We want to thank you for your hospitality. To the mayor, thank you for the facility and for all your hospitality as well, and our witnesses who will get to you. We talked to Doctor earlier today, and Sheriff, we're glad to have you with us, as well as so many folks from our law enforcement community. It's not easy. It is not easy being in law enforcement today, so we want to thank you all for what you do. And obviously it's even tougher when we're down here on the border and dealing with what we have. It's a shame that not one Democrat member of Congress would join us on this trip despite having weeks of advance notice. It's disappointing, but it's not surprising. In fact, the Democrats have called this a stunt. I would argue it's not a stunt, not what we've. My guess is our witnesses wouldn't call it a stunt. What we've learned today from them, what we've seen last night on the border, but it's disappointing that they're not here. Democrats dismiss the experiences of these real people that we've had a chance to visit with the last 24 hours, people affected by the Biden border crisis, and Democrats seem to believe that solutions can only come from bureaucrats in Washington. We actually think they come from the American people. Democrats were here and saw what we're seeing. Maybe we'd have a chance at ending this crisis and actually securing our southern border. According to Border Patrol agents, last night there were over 200 folks who crossed the border last night. We got to see the unfinished wall. Everyone tells us that walls work, walls help. Every agent we've talked to says that's the case, and yet we saw places where it should have been finished but wasn't. This morning we were at the Yuma Regional Medical Center. We heard from Dr. Trenchell and his great staff about the $26 million in uncompensated care that they've had to administer. Now, they're willing to help everybody, and they do, but it'd be nice to get actually paid for the great work that they do, and some other concerns that they had that impact the residents of this wonderful community. And, of course, we saw the damage. We heard from growers today, the damage that happens to them and the crops in the fields, and a host of other issues that we'll get to, I think, in the course of our hearing this afternoon. But by not being here and seeing firsthand is no excuse for inaction. Numbers don't lie. January's southwest border encounter number was 156,000, 36% higher than the total number of encounters in January 2021 and January 2020 combined. Let me just say that again. The number of encounters this January, last month, were more than a third higher than the last two Januaries of the Trump administration combined. Yet a Biden administration official touted this 156,000 encounter number as the result of, quote, a highly effective border security strategy. Only in Joe Biden's America is over a 5,000 illegal migrants encountered per day on the southwest border a cause to celebrate. Never forget what happened on day one. Day one, January 20th, 2021, Joe Biden said, we're not going to build the wall anymore. We're not going to keep the Remain in Mexico policy, and we're not going to deport any illegal migrants who come in for an immigration violation. So think about that. There's no wall to get over. You won't have to wait in Mexico to have your asylum claim evaluated, and you will not get deported. You'll get to go wherever you want. Well, it's no wonder so many migrants want to come to the greatest country ever. And that's the situation he had. He's also called on Congress to pass a massive amnesty package. All of these reckless actions let people around the world know that our border is open and the illegal border crossings haven't stopped since that day. Again, numbers don't lie. 4.75 million encounters since Joe Biden's been in office. Nearly 1 million of those have crossed in just the first 4 months of fiscal year 2023. Over 1.89 million illegal aliens encountered along the southwest border have been released into American communities by the Biden administration. 14,700 pounds of fentanyl were seized by Custom and Border Protection officials during fiscal year 2022. 12,500 pounds of fentanyl seized by Customs and Border officials just in the first 4 months of this fiscal year. Americans are dying as a direct result of President Biden's open border policies. It's a shame that the Democrats did not join us today in Yuma. They would have learned a thing or two. They could have heard from the farmers and landowners and the growers that I talked about earlier. They would have seen how overrun the hospital is with illegal migrants and the cost to our health care institution here in Yuma. They would have heard directly from the people here in Yuma who live President Biden's border crisis each and every day. Instead, they've accused us of political grandstanding because we're here trying to hear from real people outside of Washington, D.C. Why don't Democrats want to hear from local law enforcement? Why don't Democrats want to talk to hospital administrators? Why can't Democrats be bothered to hear how fentanyl continues to kill tens of thousands of people in communities all across this great country? I think we know why. It's because Democrats' open border policies caused this crisis, and rather than choosing to do anything to fix it, they want to call it a stunt, and they want to play political games. I want to thank our witnesses for being here today, and I hope we can discuss what Congress can do to help fix this problem. With that, I would like to recognize our subcommittee chairman. There he is, Mr. McClintock. Our subcommittee chairman on the issue of immigration, Tom McClintock from the great state of California. Mr. McClintock's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, the morning of Inauguration Day, 2021, illegal immigration had slowed to a trickle, and our borders were finally secure for the first time in decades. The border wall was nearing completion. The Remain in Mexico policy had all but stopped phony asylum claims, and ICE was actually enforcing court-ordered deportations. By the afternoon of that same day, Joe Biden had reversed these successful policies and initiated an unprecedented illegal mass migration on a scale that no civilization in history has ever survived. Since that afternoon, this administration has deliberately admitted into the interior of our country 1.9 million illegal immigrants, 600,000 of whom have not even been given notices to appear in court. While the Border Patrol has been overwhelmed changing diapers and taking names, another 1.2 million known gotaways have entered our country as well. So that totals 3.1 million illegal immigrants who've been allowed into our country to violate our borders and demand billions of dollars of taxpayer resources that we're supposed to be helping Americans. 3.1 million is a population larger than the entire state of Arkansas, a state that has 7 congressional districts. And that's just in the last 25 months. The vast proportion of these people are homeless, impoverished, and desperate. Gallup warned us last year that there are 42 million people living in poverty in Latin America and the Caribbean alone who intend to come here now that they can, and they are. There's no question that this policy is deliberate and calculated. For 2 years, we couldn't get the Democrats to hold a single hearing on this crisis, not one. In the first 6 weeks of this session, Republicans have held 2. And we've come to the border today to ask the people who are at ground zero to tell us of their experiences. And not a single Democrat on this committee has bothered to show up to listen. If not already affected, every American soon will be, because every community will soon face the practical effects of this collapsed border. We have to ask ourselves, how does it make our schools better to pack classrooms with non-English speaking students? How does it make our hospitals more accessible by flooding emergency rooms with illegals demanding care? How does it strengthen our social safety net by adding millions of impoverished individuals to a system that's already strained to the breaking point? How does it make our children safer with fentanyl flooding our neighborhoods and killing nearly 300 Americans a day? How does it make our communities safer to introduce violent cartels into them and make it all but impossible to deport criminal illegal aliens? How does it help working Americans to undercut them by flooding the labor market with cheap illegal labor? We are here today to listen to our fellow Americans who live with the full impact of this new and lawless age, one that's rapidly making its way to every town and every neighborhood in the country. On my last trip to Yuma this past fall, I asked rank-and-file Border Patrol officers what laws they needed us to write to do their jobs. To a person, every one of them said the same thing. We don't need new laws. We need to enforce our existing laws. When President Trump faithfully executed those laws, our borders were secure. But there's still much that can be done legislatively to assure this never happens again. The law requires every asylum claimant to be detained until their case is adjudicated. We need a Title 42 type mechanism to assure that we have the capacity to enforce this law. Credible fear standards need to be tightened to prevent the admission of anyone who has a criminal record or who has passed through a safe country. Unaccompanied minors need to be returned safely to their own homes immediately. E-Verify should be required to streamline compliance with the law that protects Americans' jobs. The current abuses of parole authority must be stopped. Well, the two parties are far, far apart on this issue, as evidenced by the lack of any interest by the Democrats on this committee today to even address the crisis or listen to the people who've been directly affected by it. And the trust gap is also immense. If this administration refuses to enforce existing laws, why would anyone trust it to enforce future laws? But this won't stop us from trying. That's why we're here today. But I'm afraid that this is going to get worse until the American people demand that these policies be reversed. History is screaming this warning at us. Countries that cannot or will not enforce their borders simply aren't around very long. We can't and we won't let that become the epitaph of the American Republic. And I yield back.
I thank the gentleman. Well said. Without objection, all other opening statements will be included in the record. I want to introduce, we have three great witnesses today who are, and I want to introduce them, who are here to give us the facts, to give us the truth. Not here to complain. Complaining doesn't solve it. What's the old great football coach Lou Holtz said that, stop complaining about your problems. 90% of the people don't care and 10% are glad you got them, right? Remember? That is not what this panel is about. These are folks who want to give us the facts and the truth from here on the ground, on the front lines, and we welcome them being here today. Mr. Jonathan Lyons has served as District 2 Yuma County Supervisor for 2 years, a previous chairman of the Republican Party of Arizona. He is now a member of the Arizona-Mexico Commission, serves as vice chair of the new Water Infrastructure and Finance Authority for Arizona, and of course, as you all know, is a small business owner here in this community. The Honorable Leon Wilmot, Sheriff Wilmot has served in law enforcement in Yuma, Arizona for 38 years. This is our second hearing, and this is the second hearing where we've had a sheriff from this great state. We had Sheriff Daniels a few weeks ago up in Washington, D.C., and it's interesting. I think he's served 28 or 38. I think you've served 38 years, and currently serving in his third term as Sheriff of Yuma County. He's a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. Thank you for that service, too. And serves as the Executive Committee on the National Sheriff's Association. And, of course, our third witness is Dr. Robert Trenchel. He's President and CEO of the Yuma Regional Medical Center, where we spent the morning. Amazing facility. He has nearly 20 years of experience in senior management of medical care, graduated from the medical school at Nova Southeastern University in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, which is dear to my colleague's heart here from the great state of Florida, and was in private practice from 1990 until 2000. Dr. Trenchel holds a master's degree in public health from Florida International University in Miami, Florida. We want to welcome all three of our witnesses and thank them for appearing here today. And as I said earlier, I also want to welcome several Arizona sheriffs. Now, I'm not sure if I got everyone's list, but I'm going to go on my list. And if I didn't get you, I want you to stand up and tell us who you are. And I want to make sure I pronounce these. Lupaz. Did I say that county right? La Paz. Okay, county sheriff. That's what a Buckeye does when he gets to Arizona. Sheriff William Ponce and Chief Deputy David Gray. Are they here? Oh, right there. There we go. Right. Thank you. Thank you. Pinal County Sheriff Mark. Did I get that one right? Pinal. You got to help me, Biggs. What the heck?
It's Pinal County, brother.
Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb and Chief Deputy Matthew Thomas, thank you as well. Cochise County, I got that one right. Cochise County Mark Daniels, because that's because I had that before. He was there 2 weeks ago, but I know Mark couldn't make it, but he was there in D.C. Graham County Sheriff Preston Allred, excuse me. Yeah. Gila County, thanks for the help. That's Gila County Sheriff Adam Shepard. Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you. Yavapai. Wow. Yavapai. I would have never got that one. Sheriff David Rhodes, thank you as well. Navajo. I would have got the last one. Navajo. Sheriff David Klaus, thank you as well for being here. God bless you all. We will begin by swearing in our witnesses. If you'd all stand, raise your right hand. Our three witnesses here. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief, so help you God? Yes. Let the record show that each witness answered in the affirmative. We're going to give you 5 minutes. You guys can be seated. We'll start with Dr. Trenchel, and we'll go right down the line, 5 minutes, and then the sheriff, and then Mr. Lyons. And yeah, pass that microphone. I'll give you a little light tap with the gavel when you get to about 4.5 minutes. But we're going to be, we're amongst friends here. If you got to go a little longer than 5.5 minutes, that'd be fine too. So, Doctor, you're recognized, and thank you again.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Chairman Jordan and members of the committee. I'm Dr. Robert Trenchel, President and CEO of Yuma Regional Medical Center, and thank you for being here in person today to get a firsthand account of the impact that open borders have had on our hospital and community over the past year and more. I've been in Yuma for close to 8 years as CEO, and I bring over 30 years of experience in healthcare administration. Yuma Regional Medical Center is a 406-bed hospital that offers a full range of acute care services. The closest hospitals that do what we do are located 180 miles away in Phoenix or San Diego. Given our geographic location, our hospital and health system holds a deep responsibility of keeping local families close to home for care whenever possible. For many who live here, traveling out of town for care is simply an unbearable challenge. They depend on us to be here. Our mission to meet the needs of the community is always in the forefront of every decision. I also want to acknowledge the work and heart of our staff at Yuma Regional Medical Center, who continue to work and care for patients each and every day. They provide the same high level of care for every patient. We do not treat anyone differently, and we take pride in that. If your mother or grandchild walks through our doors, or if a migrant walks through our doors, they will receive the same level of care. We've had a significant increase in the number of migrants crossing the border into our community. Our hospital saw an increase in the number of migrants seeking care beginning late fall, early winter of 21. They arrived to our hospital emergency room in a multitude of ways. Some patients come to us via Border Patrol, who typically release them from custody upon arrival. Other patients walk in, take taxis. Some even come by Uber. As I've said, we're the only acute care hospital in the area, which means diversion to another facility is not an option. We are it. Some migrants come to us with minor ailments, but many come in with significant disease. We've had migrant patients on dialysis, cardiac catheterization, and in need of heart surgery. Many are very sick. They have long-term complications of chronic disease that have not been cared for. Some end up in the ICU for 60 days or more. One of the largest cohorts we have seen are maternity patients who present with little or no prenatal care. These higher risk pregnancies and births result in higher complication rates and longer hospital stays. Due to a lack of prenatal care, many of these babies require a stay in our neonatal intensive care unit, some for a month or more at a time. There are language and cultural concerns with migrant patients. We work through those, but when you consider the volume and associated case management that comes with it, resources have to support this as well. Migrants often require 3 times the amount of human resources to resolve their cases and provide them with a safe discharge as defined by CMS. That effort includes assisting in locating families, making sure they have a safe place to go when they are discharged, arranging and sometimes purchasing durable medical equipment when needed. We have paid for emergency air transport when they need a higher level of care, hotel rooms, taxis, and car seats. We do all these things because it's the right thing to do from a humanitarian perspective, but it also allows us to open up a hospital bed sooner for another patient in our community. None of these expenses are included in the $26 million figure. Our reality is this. We have delivered over $26 million in uncompensated care to these individuals in the 12-month period from December 21 to November 22. That's an auditable figure. Let me assure you this is not an approximation. That number comes from a detailed review of unpaid patient bills directly attributed to migrant patients. $26 million in uncompensated care is simply not a sustainable business model. While this is a huge number that we have validated, the point is that any number is not acceptable. It is an unsustainable model to have a hospital like ours bear the entire burden of paying for migrant health care. No business or service can survive ongoing large-scale expenses without any offsetting revenue. Because of this surge in migrant care, we've had to hire additional staff at a time when healthcare labor post-pandemic is higher than ever. Every dollar in uncompensated care has a direct impact on our hospital. Migrant patients are receiving free care. They have no ability to pay. We have no ability to bill anyone. We don't know their final destination. We don't know anything about them. We cannot provide completely free care to the residents of our community, so the situation is simply not fair and understandably concerning to them. Let me put this into perspective. $26 million is equal to the salary and benefits benefits to support 212 bedside nurses. The city of Yuma has 100,000 people, and we've had over 300,000 people cross the border here. That's 3 times the population of Yuma coming across the border. We're the only hospital within a 3-hour radius, which means they come here. We've contacted our state and federal leaders, and no one has a solution. They are willing to listen and are empathetic to our situation, but so far we have no solutions or reimbursement for the care. We've been at this for well over a year now. On behalf of our entire healthcare team, I'm here seeking your leadership support to find a payer source for the care we have already provided and will continue to provide in the future, and to put long-term solutions into action that will support our daily commitment to be here for our community for years to come. One hospital should not and cannot bear the health care costs of a national migrant problem that is deeply impacting Arizona and our community. We need a revenue source for the patient population so we can sustainably provide high-quality care to all comers and remain viable for the future.
Thank you, Doctor. We appreciate your being with us.